Oh my gosh, Knives Out. What a blast. What's up everyone, welcome to Ashley Talks Movies. Today I'm doing a review of Knives Out, the new film written and directed by Rian Johnson. The film has quite the packed cast. We're talking Daniel Craig, Chris Evans, Christopher Plummer, Toni, Collette, Jamie Lee Curtis, Don Johnson, LaKeith Stanfield, Armas. So many people in this film. What did I think of the film? Let's get to the review. So Knives Out is essentially this whodunit murder mystery. But it's not a drama, okay? It's a comedy. It's laugh out loud, it's funny, it's bonkers, but it's a murder mystery. And it's essentially, from the beginning of the film, you're introduced to the Thromby family. And the patriarch, Harlan, is played by Christopher Plummer. His family gathers for his, I believe it's his 85th birthday. And then after the party, it's discovered that he is dead. So who did it? Who's responsible for the death of Harlan? And from there, you, the audience, is put in this murder mystery, and you, along with Daniel Craig's character, Benoit Blanc, this, I guess he's Southern. Daniel Craig's accent in this movie is all over the place. I'm assuming he's Southern because his accent, I guess he's doing a Southern accent. But he plays his investigator, Benoit Blanc, who's brought in to help solve the mystery of Harlan's death. I have to say, and I'll probably say it many times in this review, that Knives Out is so much fun. It's a blast. I had so much fun with this movie. I laughed. I was on the edge of my seat. It's funny, it's brilliant, it's clever. The story is fantastic. All these elements go really well together and put into play, and this movie is just fun. Honestly, Knives Out is probably the most fun I've had at the movies all year. That might seem like a bold statement, but I really mean it. I stand behind it. This movie is great. So, the story. As I mentioned before, Christopher Plummer's character, Harlan, dies. Okay, that's not a spoiler. It's in the trailer. So he dies, and there's this whole mystery about how did he die? What are the circumstances? Was somebody in the family responsible? Because, you know, they're a wealthy family. So money is at stake here, right? And the story is so interesting. It's very clear that Rian Johnson is familiar with murder mysteries and whodunit type films, because he takes those elements and has a new take on it with Knives Out, but also he's able to put those pieces into place so well with this story that it creates this really fun and interesting puzzle. And the reveals, I mean, the characters in this film, I mean, all-star cast, as I mentioned before, they play some really terrible characters. Not terrible and bad, but like terrible, like these people are not great people, right? They're very flawed. And as the story goes on, pieces, like layers are revealed for these characters, and you get to learn a little bit more about them, their motivations, what motive they would have had if they had a hand in Harlan's death. You also get to learn more about where they fit within the family, because there's interesting dynamics within the family with each of these characters. Deception, lies, truth, what all that stuff comes into play. Those are all running themes in this story, and again, it works so well in creating this elaborate puzzle. And that's another thing with the story. There's so many twists and turns in this story that it keeps you guessing. I was, you know, on the edge of my seat throughout all of it. I was hooked because it's very thrilling and suspenseful. But yeah, there's tons of twists and turns in this film. You get a piece of information and you think, okay, this is where they're going with this story, this is where they're going with this character. And then there's another twist thrown in there, and then you go, okay, so now we're over here now. And then there's another twist, and all of it works really well. They all build up to this bigger reveal later. I will say though, I did figure it out. I did solve the mystery before the film was over, but that didn't matter, because seeing it revealed was still worth it. because there's a way that Rian Johnson does this in the film where the big mystery is revealed and Daniel Craig's character is revealing it, and it's so good that even if you figure it out, it's worth watching it just for that. Another thing that's really great about this film is the cast, as I mentioned before. Now, many people will probably go see this movie for Chris Evans or Jamie Lee Curtis or Toni Collette, you know, some of the bigger names in this film, or Daniel Craig, which is fine, because to me, out of that crop of actors, Chris Evans is really great in this movie. He plays Ransom Thrumby, and what are these names? And he brings this sort of like devilish charm to the character, so he does a fantastic job with that. As I mentioned before, Daniel Craig's character, he's playing this odd investigator with an equally odd name and equally odd accent, but he's great and he's fun in it. But I will say, for me, the standout performance of Knives Out had to be Ana de Armas. I remember her from Blade Runner 2049. She didn't have a huge role in that movie, but here she has a much bigger role and has a lot to work with. And she plays Marta. And she does such a fantastic job with her character. As I mentioned before, there's lots of twists and turns in this movie. A lot of it is comedy, but there are some thrilling moments, and there's physical comedy within it too. And she's able to balance all of that in this movie. I mean, just fantastic performance by her. So yeah, overall, story's great, the characters are great, the performances are great. There's lots of twists and turns. It's fun. It's clever how everything is put together and then deconstructed and then put together again and then shifted around. Like I mentioned before, Knives Out was so much fun. It was a blast. I really enjoyed this movie. I think it's fantastic. Rian Johnson did such a great job because he directed this. He wrote the script for it. He did such a fantastic job with the story. It was fun. I laughed so much in this movie. I cannot tell you. At one point I realized I just had this huge smile on my face as I was watching the movie because it was just so much fun. So if you're looking for something that's a comedy, something that's fun, something that also, you know, makes you think a little bit, because again, it's a murder mystery and it's just like this elaborate puzzle, I definitely highly recommend Knives Out. So hit the comment section below. Let me know what you think about Knives Out. Are you excited to see it? Which performances are you looking forward to the most? While you're here, please like and share this review, and don't forget to subscribe.